Okay, we're going to talk about section 9.8 in the book, and this section is about linear systems, solving them down for answers using linear systems and quadratic systems as together. And there's three methods of solving them. But first we're going to talk about what to solve means. A solve means there's three different types of solutions. I'll try to write the best I can here. If I had a quadratic equation, let's say here's my quadratic equation. I'm just going to sketch it. A quadratic equation, if in a linear line, can touch twice, like this. And my solutions would be right here and right here. A quadratic, and that would be called two solutions. You know, when we have crosses two spots, you're going to get two solutions. Now, you can get one solution if you had a quadratic and a line that just touches at one point like this. Then this would be one solution. Now the final option is if you had a quadratic equation, and it doesn't always have to be upside a U, it could be upside down. And here's my quadratic equation. And you had a line, let's say, going like this, that never touches that line. This would be zero solutions. So if you have two, we have a one solution and we have zero solutions. Trying to get this to show off the screen here. Okay, let's go to the next thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to solve down some solutions and see what we could come up with. And the first problem we're going to do is on page, or I shouldn't say page, is this problem. It's number 8 on page 599. And it says to solve the equation on graphing. So we have y equals x squared plus 1 and y equals x plus 1. From the work we've been doing, we know that this is a quadratic equation. This is a linear equation. So I'm just going to go off to the side. Hopefully by now, on the first equation, I'm going to call this equation A up top here. We know that in this form, my vertex is going to be 0 because there's no middle term, and 1. Then I'm going to plug in, like usual, 5 points when graphing. So if I plug in a negative 2 in this equation, negative 2 squared is 4 plus 1 is 5. And that means 2 is 5. I'm going to plug in negative 1. 1 is 2. And then axis symmetry wise, it gives me 2. Now for the B equation, we're going to have y x plus 1. So I'm going to put my B equation here, x and y. Now there's no vertex on this. This is a straight line. And I'm going to use a lot of the same points here. Negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, and 2. And so if I plug those points in, negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. Negative 1 plus 1 is 0. 0 plus 1 is 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. And 2 plus 1 is 3. So now I'm going to go down here to the best of my ability and graph the equation out. So on here we got negative 2, negative 1. Negative 2, negative 1. There's my first point. Negative 1, 0. I'm doing the line first. 0, 1. 1, 2. And 2, 3. Now if I went in here and say, okay, let's draw my line through this point. I'm going to go through here. And there's my line. Now you're going to have an arrow at the end, so this is a straight line. Now my other graph is a negative 2, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Negative 1, 2. 0, 1. 1, 2. And 2, 5. Now if I drew my graph down of this one, and it might be a little bit off, but where they would intersect using graph paper would be a little bit easier. You notice that these two graphs intersect here and here. This point was at 1, 2, and this point was at 0, 1. So this has two solutions, 0, 1 and 1, 2. So graphing is one way we can solve these down. Now another way we can solve these down is by using elimination. Now eliminations is a little easier because graphing you kind of have to estimate on the equations. Now in elimination what we have here is y is equal to, I'm going to do number 14, negative x plus 3, and y is equal to x squared plus 1. Now eliminating means you want to get rid of a variable. So I'm going to get rid of y. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the top equation, as long as I do both sides, by negative 1. If I do that, on the top equation, I'm going to get a negative y is equal to x plus, and I'm going to put negative 3. The bottom equation I'm going to leave alone. Y is equal to x squared plus 1. So when I add these equations together, this is what elimination is. Negative y plus y is 0. So they're gone. So I got 0 is equal to. Now I just add together the like terms. There's no other x squared, so I'm going to put that there. X squared. No other x's, so I'm going to put that in there. Plus x. And negative 3 and 1 is a negative 2. Now to solve this down, what we're going to have here is we're going to have x plus 2, x minus 1. That'll give me my middle term of a positive x. So now solving this down equals 0, that means my answers would be x equals a negative 2. I'm going to rewrite that a little neater. X equals a negative 2 and x equals to 1. What makes them 0? Now this will cross at two spots. Now notice one thing you have to remember about elimination is that the negative, you have to make one of them negative so they would cancel off. Okay, that's the elimination. Now one more. Let's do substitution. Now substitution is very similar. We're going to do number 18. Y is equal to x squared minus 2x minus 6, and y is equal to 4x plus 10. Now you notice on here we're going to use substitution. Notice both of these are y, and when we do a system of equations, that means the y's have to be the same. If both of these y's are the same, that means that this has to equal that. So in other words, we're going to take this equation right here, and wherever I see a y in the other equation, I'm going to put it in for it. So in other words, we're going to get 4x plus 10 equals x squared minus 2x minus 6. Now, like we did all along, to solve down, we have to get everything on one side. So I'm going to subtract 4x minus 10 minus 10. Those will cancel off, and we get 0 is equal to x squared minus 6x minus 16. Now, just like we solved all the other ones down, we can factor this one. This one factors down very nicely to x minus 8, x plus 2, because 8 times 2, negative 8 times 2 is negative 16. X times x is x squared. Middle term, negative 8x. Positive 2 makes a negative 6. Now, setting each of these equal to 0, in other words, x minus 8 equal to 0 and solve, x plus 2 equal to 0 and solve, we're going to get x is equal to 8 and x is equal to negative 2. And that means, now this is my x, and I should go back to the previous problem. That tells me just my x coordinate now. My x is 8, my x is a negative 2. So now I have to go back, and it doesn't matter which equation to go back to and to figure out your y. 4 times 8 is 32, plus 10 is 42. And I can go back to the other equation. 8 squared is 64, minus 16 is 48, minus 6 is 42. You're going to get the same answer. I always go back, I always go back and to the easier of the two equations. So like on negative 2, I'm going to go to this equation. 4 times a negative 2 is negative 8, plus 2 is 2. So my graph is going to cross in those two spots. So I'm going to go back to the previous problem here. We had our x coordinates, so where we know our x is a negative 2 and x is 1. Now we have to find our y coordinates. Negative 2 squared is 4, plus 1 is 5. 1 squared is 1, plus 1 is 2. So those would be my x coordinates. This is just a brief video to get you going on this section. Hopefully, if you have questions, you will send them to me. Thank you.